So excited to be here with you guys. Andrea and I have some fun ahead of us. Yes, some great news and information and connection points and celebration for ADHD Awareness Month. But side note, it's also Dyslexia Awareness Month and other mental health divergencies month. So a lot. So we're just celebrating all of our neurodivergent friends and their hardworking teachers and parents and everyone. So we just are celebrating you as we start these Wednesday series of lives. And so yeah, Andrea, what are we gonna do today?
Well, I'm so excited that we've joined today as a team because that's what we need to do. Our biggest dream is to unite parents and teachers as a team to foster the nurturing environment for children. By improving communication and sharing strategies that work, we'll be able to support every child's academic, emotional, and social growth and then also celebrate their unique potential. So that's our dream coming here. And I'm so glad that we were inspired to come together. I don't know if you know me, but my name is Andrea French. I have been teaching for nearly 20 years. I'm a nationally certified board teacher specializing in exceptional needs. I became a life coach as well about 8 years ago, and I started mentoring teachers. And that's my dream is to help provide teachers with the support to develop healthy rituals to stay out of the burnout and just teach with joy and be in the flow.
Oh, so needed. I love that. And I wish I had met you sooner, but yeah, my name is Lori Bloyer. I left the teaching field because I did burn out and I felt, though, a bigger calling to help families that have neurodivergent kids and those kids learn strategies that we just aren't able to necessarily get to in the classroom. So that's why Andrea and I really wanted to come together so that we could unite families and teachers and their children, which is who we really are thinking about in all of these gatherings and as we work as parents and as we work as teachers, right? It's all the children that we have in our hearts and minds. So I became a learning and life success coach as well, and I work with the parents and their children. So usually out of school time. So the teachers are so important for in the school time. So what a great partnership. I can't wait to keep going on these Wednesdays. So we are just going to talk for a little bit, share a little bit of information from our, I don't know, gosh, we haven't even talked about it, probably combined, what, 60 years of wisdom here? I've been teaching for over 25. How many have you been teaching for?
It's been about 17, so it's nearly 20 years. I mean,
Right.
so
Okay, okay. So we're closer to 50. We're not that old. So quite a wealth of knowledge we have sitting in this room and in this online room. And then we'll just answer a few questions at the end. So if you do have questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. If we don't have time to get to them today, we will answer them next week or personally answer you if we feel like it's something more urgent than can wait till our next Wednesday live. So keep the conversation going. We'd love to hear from you, but we're just going to start off with a little bit of something to spark your questions, perhaps. Yeah? So, so let's, should we start with what is neurodivergency anyway? What is that big fancy word? Should we start with
yeah,
that?
yeah, I think that's a good place to start.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it's a word I didn't really know when I was a teacher. I didn't get taught in my master's program. It wasn't really a word that we used a lot, but it's becoming much more frequently used today. And some people say it means like ND. Some people use ND as an acronym, so you might only know that. Some people are only aware of um, the ADHD side of things as a neurodivergence, but there's so much more. There's autism spectrum, there's the dyslexia, and then it's anything where your neurons are just not forming the typical way. And so the opposite would be a neurotypical, right? The typical way. So Anything that's might fit like dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, those type of things. It's just where your brain was born different. Just like me, I'm left-handed and, I live in a right-handed world, but I still get by. I'm still fine. I still use different tools though to help me. But yeah, I'm lefty in a right-handed world. So I just have to fit in, and the world also has to work with me. And that means my brain is also kind of exceptional because I use different part than maybe other neurotypicals. But I really want to say it's not a deficit. It's not a deficit. It's not that the kid's broken or that there's something wrong with them or they need to be fixed. It's just a difference, right? It's just a difference. And so I really, really, really hope that's clear. If that's new to you, again, we would love to talk about that with you. We could go on, like Andrew and I were talking about rabbit holes forever on all of these topics, but we're just going to kind of give you high level today. So, it's really something just special and wonderful about your kid. Yeah, what were you saying?
Well, what I wanted to point out is that I know in my educational background of getting my certification as a teacher,
Mhm.
I was never properly trained on how to help children regulate their emotions or how to teach in different ways or allow them to express themselves in different ways or just be aware of what the different needs are, not just for neurodivergent children, but children in general. I mean, as you know, the education system has not changed at all since it started. So there's a big need for some change. And I could go into a rabbit hole about that one too, but I just wanted to make you aware, if you haven't, the teachers are not properly trained or supported throughout the process of the year emotionally.
That's a big one, yeah. Or supported. And that's what you're here for, to right support teachers. I'm here to support the parents. But also, how teachers and parents, I'm sure we'll get to this in some of our future Q&As, but how they can work together because oh my gosh, it's so key for these parents to have a great working relationship with their teachers, especially if they're in middle and high school and there's many teachers. It's a lot for parents, but it's so crucial because um, parents might not know this, and Andrew, you could probably speak to it a lot, but teachers are given a wealth of IEPs. Like you have 60, for middle and high school teachers, we had 90 students I was working with, or 120 students a day. And so we're given 60 IEPs in my school, and you have to differentiate for each child and make sure each child is they're, what you're meeting the IEP for legal reasons. But there's sneaky ways to get around that, right? I mean, we have really wonderful strategies. What were you going to talk about that?
Well, the strategies, I was going to speak on something else first
Oh,
before
sorry.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Backing up, like with all the IEPs and all the
Mm,
accommodations that are written, it seems almost impossible for a teacher to do that for every single child. And so that's why there's a need to build that relationship with the parents because the parents are the expert on their child and they know
mm, mm,
the more communication that you have, the more you can tweak things that might not even be in the IEP. Because I feel like this document is like created once a year and then it's updated the next year, but there has to be some tweaking going on in between the whole time, depending upon your child's growth or maybe needing some more support. So I think that that's very important as a teacher, you know, that building relationships with your students and your parents are the number one thing to do first and focus on that. Once you foster that, then you can go on and build the trust so that the child feels safe enough to take chances and make mistakes and learn and feel good about school. So that's the whole thing that I wanted to stress about that.
mm. I
But
love that. I love
I don't
that.
know.
Sorry, I just want to give you a big thumbs up to that. I love what you just said. So I hope parents and teachers, you're hearing that. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think that like right away, if parents and teachers are worried about how to communicate concerns about the child early on in the school year, I don't think that I think that you should just be honest about, you know, how much you care about this child. Point out good things from both perspectives, the or interests that the child has. so that people, so teachers will know how to connect with them more, and then also just be really honest about, a concern, but that right away it's about building the relationship first. And so we're going to work on that first before we get in there and say, he needs this, she needs this. I mean, not unless you have a proven strategy from previous teachers or parents. So, um, but we are going to talk about strategies later on in our live sessions. But I think what you were leading to was for me to introduce the concept of universal design,
I
which
think,
is an
yeah.
amazing concept that I will dig deeper into. And that's just providing equity among everyone in the classroom to it's that whole equality versus equity picture, where if you give the equal design or instruction, the equal resources, not everybody can access that, the general education classroom. A lot of kids can't. So it's really important to look at the different types of accommodations that you could do just for the whole entire class. And it seems like a lot of work, but it's really not. Once you set these in place, it makes your class environment so much easier. But we'll get more into that later.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I think that's going to be gold when we start talking about the strategies because there's strategies that parents can use at home and teachers can use in the classroom. But like you were saying, there's strategies that serve not just the neurodiverse students, but also the neurotypical students. And I think the big picture is it makes the classroom more peaceful, right? It makes it more of like a place where a teacher wants to teach and a child wants to go to the school and a parent wants their kid in that class, right? Because they're being seen. Like you said, that relationship building, I think, is huge. They want to be seen. We all want to be seen. The parent wants to be seen, the teacher, everyone, the child. But it creates just that it's inclusive, but in a beautiful way, right? Inclusive as far as a holistic approach, right? It includes all of their thinking ways and all of the ways that a teacher can serve their child and their students. And yeah, I think it's
Yeah, I
beautiful.
totally agree. I mean, everybody wants to feel like they belong
Hmm.
to something, and they deserve that. All children deserve the right to belong and to learn and have a great life. That's what this
Hmm.
is setting them up to, is to be a, great leader, to be a great communicator, collaborator, to be successful in life. And that's every teacher and parent's dream.
Hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think what we've been taught, is hard. It's like, teachers have learned, and parents too, because we went through the school system, right? We know these things because we went through the school system. So we're really equals, the teachers and the parents. I mean, yes, teachers have gone through more training, mostly about delivering curriculum, but like sit still. I mean, I even learned that I have ADHD by becoming a specialized ADHD coach. I even learned, oh my goodness, I have ADHD. And yet I was that teacher that still would always say, like, you lost your homework again? Are you kidding? I was not patient with that. And why do you have to wiggle so much? And, can't you just try harder? So some of these strategies, some of these things that teachers are saying, or parents, both of us, when we start to go through these strategies, they're gonna and answer all your questions in the Q&A. I think it'll be eye-opening, right? That we can have such beautiful equity and inclusion in home and at school. Sorry, I just had to get that in. I just think
Well,
it's
I just
beautiful.
wanted to say that there is no shame in feeling that way. And, because as a teacher, I still work part-time, just to stay connected. But I still have found myself being like, oh, just sit still, just, I mean, it's still it's a common thing, but there's a way that you can, even if you did say that, you could step back and be like, hey, I'm sorry. I know that you can learn a lot. I know that you're super capable, and it just kind of frustrates me. when I see that. So that's why I got like that, just to be real with, so it's like, even if you aren't perfect at delivering these strategies, you just be yourself and be compassionate with yourself and with the student. And so I think that's how we were wanting to open up this whole thing, is that we need to hold more compassion for ourselves and compassion for the child and compassion for the whole system because um, it's not perfect and it's okay. We're just working through it, but we only have good intentions for one another. So I think that's an important thing to think about, is like your intentions. Maybe I might not have done this the best way, but my intentions are good and I can only improve from there. That's what I think is important.
Absolutely. I mean, I think all of us want the best for these kids, and all of us are coming in with beautiful intentions. And something I just want to underline that you said before is that, yeah, we want these beautiful intentions, but we can't, we're not purposely not going through all the strategies as a big checklist on this first Q&A, because I think what I want to underline was that you said, you really need relationships before you can correct kids. You need to be curious. I did a whole talk on that a few months ago about being curious before you can even have the consequences, right? Like, just be curious, what's really going on? Did they eat their breakfast, or did they sleep well last night, before you just immediately go to why can't you, or how come you never, or whatever the thing might be that we parents and teachers might say. But and then also I just want to say understanding before we deliver those interventions, which is what you also said, right? Those three I think are really the backbone of what we're going to be talking about over these next several weeks and beyond, right? Is that how do we see this child and see this family and this teacher and this classroom as um, how do we get curious? How do we um, create relationship? How do we understand everyone's viewpoint, everyone's picture, who this person, this child is, this parent is, this teacher is, right? In order to have amazing strategies that work like that.
Well, and I think that this is also a process. I think this just doesn't happen
Mm,
overnight, that
mm-mm,
this takes time. And I know when I was a special education teacher, general education teachers couldn't even apply to see if the child could be tested to see if they have a disability until after 4 to 6 weeks of interventions in the classroom. So
mm,
that's something really to think about, is to really get to know and let the child get used to routines and different structures in your classroom before trying to come up with all these strategies that, for the child. So I think that's important to think about.
mm, Absolutely. Absolutely. So, do we want to get into a few questions? I know we were going to try to keep these to about half an hour, but do we want to get into a few questions now, or did you have anything we wanted to add on to
No, I think that's a great, I
a
think that
little
we've
overview?
shared a lot to introduce it and the first steps towards it. Let's answer some questions.
All right. I think one that we received here, what about kids who are gaming the system? What about kids who are gaming the system? What do we do? Oh, that's jumping in right away.
Yeah, and
What do
I
you
get
think?
it. I understand because the child is capable of, doing the work and whatever. You've seen it before, but and then you just think maybe as a teacher that it's not fair because other kids are having to do the work, and maybe some kids don't think it's fair either and they just don't understand. So I totally understand the dilemma, but I think this is like a multifaceted challenge that is specific to that individual, because I would truly need to look at the student's IEP or individualized education plan to see if they have different accommodations or even modifications on homework in general. And then, or if they're a 504 plan, what their plan lays out. And if the team is met, like the administrators, all the teachers, the counselor, and the parent, just to see what's really going on there and come up with strategies. How long has this been going on? I mean, there's so many things that
Mm-hmm.
it takes to really help create different tactics to help support the child to, do what they're capable of doing. And that takes time too. It's not just a one solves all, because children, once you get to this tactic and it works for a while, then it's going to have to change to something else, like eventually based on their needs. So it's an ongoing process, but I understand the feeling of that, and I get it. But I think that again, we should hold more compassion for ourselves for having those judgments, and have compassion for the child in whatever situation they might be in as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely feel like, and we have to be careful as adults and teachers, and I think everyone working with the kid, how we speak about those labels, right? I personally work from kind of a label-free environment, which is actually maybe where we're going to go with this next question I see here, where kids would come and they'd be like, as a teacher, they would say, "Oh, I have ADHD. I can't da 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 da," or "I can't do that because of my ADHD." So it's almost like they're using it as an excuse or a crutch. But as I said, I've never. Okay, maybe there's a few times that I've had struggles with my left hand. I've had to say, I can't really do that with these scissors because I need special scissors. But I've seen more and more kids are just saying that. And so I think we need to be careful with those labels and how we talk about it with the kids, especially because I'm seeing it. Are you seeing that too in the classroom? It's
Yeah,
a little
but
bit
I
more of a
think also
crutch.
if you are building a relationship with that
Hmm.
person or that child, and like that person, maybe that person does well with humor. Maybe you could use humor about it, like, oh, did your dog eat it or whatever, just like to try to be like, you can do it. Come on, I'll give you another chance or whatever, like you could use in terms of a relationship that you've built with that child. I think that there's definitely room to work with it. And when the child says, I can't do this because I have this label or whatever, that's not the end all thing,
Hmm.
because you want to make them be able to believe in themselves and believe they can do anything and be able to, you know, to feel good taking chances. So that's something that it is
Right.
important
And I
to.
think that's where our strategies will come in, right? Like,
Yeah.
you said you can do it, but the relationship, but then saying, okay, well, maybe you just need to stand up before we do this assignment,
Yeah.
or maybe you need to go get a quick breath of air and come back. Like some of those strategies that we'll talk about, will
Or
also
maybe
really
I don't need
help.
as much homework. Maybe I just need like a little
Right.
chunk of homework, or, maybe I am not a big fan of homework in the elementary, especially.
Hmm.
I believe children need time with their families, but that's just me personally. Like, I feel like if that student is showing what they need to know in the classroom, that, the homework shouldn't be a mandatory thing. I do believe that homework, I've seen a lot of homework given that children, because I have children myself in the background right there,
Okay.
that teachers give, and it's not an intentional thing, because I love teachers, but they give homework that the child doesn't know how to do and that
Mm-hmm.
they've not practiced in school. And that's a problem for all children. And so I just really think we need to be more aware of, if it is something that you want them to practice, it should be something they're solid with, and they're good with,
Hmm.
and they can show their parents, hey, look what I can do. Because I think that's the goal, is to build the confidence. But anyways, I
Hmm.
can go down a rabbit hole
I
on that.
know. No, it's awesome. And we have time to talk about this. We'll be talking lots. There was just
Okay.
one other question that came in I wanted to go through real quick about that I was leading to was my child has so many diagnoses, where do I start? Right? And so yeah, that's a big question, but I think a simple answer is that we really just want to start with where they're at. Again, like getting curious, building a relationship. Obviously, if you're the parent, you already have the relationship, but as a teacher, but getting curious and finding out what works for their needs, and start with just with like one thing at a time. We're not going to say, okay, we're going to do everything and fix everything and have a solution for everything tomorrow. Like you said, it takes time. But if we
Yeah.
look at one thing at a time and celebrate those wins as we go on, and work with the team and do one thing, making sure that we're kind of all on the same page, I think that's pretty important. What do you think about that?
I
Sorry.
agree with you because I think that we should focus on improving something and expanding that. And within doing that, that also helps out all the other diagnoses, I believe, or areas in your life too. So it's all connected
Hmm.
and it's needed to just take one small step at a time every day to create the momentum for a change, bigger change.
Hmm. And I've noticed they're all usually interwoven. What I work with a lot with my families is looking at the root, and that leads kind of, if you think of a tree, it leads up to the trunk, and then the branches and the blossoms are like the amazing fruit, right? So we start with
Yeah.
the root and not put a band-aid on top, but we start with like, what is, as I mentioned earlier, right? What is this child coming in with? Did they eat? Did they sleep? Did their
Mm.
parents get into a fight last night? What are they coming from as just a human, and what can we work on at the root level, even for all of our kids? These are great things to think
Yeah.
about. But what can we work on, to answer this question, right? What's the one thing? So, as you were saying about the work, do they need to stand? Do they need to go get some fresh air? What's the one thing we can do that for their need and their brain, and how can we start to create that pathway that will create the amazing tree?
I totally agree with you. You got to start somewhere, and that's a
Yep.
great place to start. I just wanted to say again that our dream is to unite teachers and parents so
Mhm.
that we can provide that nurturing environment for their roots
Mhm.
and improve communication between us and share strategies so that we can support your child's development and celebrate their unique potential. Can you
Mhm.
tell us maybe what we're going to be talking about next week?
Next week, I think we're gonna, we've been alluding to it a lot. I think we should probably give them a couple strategies, right?
Okay.
And get a little practical. And so we would love if you have any scenarios that you want to drop into the chat or come to us with next week. We can talk about certain scenarios and to give you a few strategies and tools you can start using right away. Um, I think that's a good start. What do you think for next week?
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that we should maybe focus on giving some more because I think that teachers and parents are really yearning for something right now that they can use, and I get it because when you're in the heat of it, you just want to do the best job that you can do.
Right. And you know what? I think this little session, I hope you guys keep coming back. So important because I know all across the country, school's been in session for a while, and parent-teacher conferences are coming up. And this is the time where, parents and teachers really need to work together, and they need to see each other as allies and not, opposite forces, shall I say. And this is the time where some parents are going to be surprised. Like, my kid is acting like this. So we're here. We are here to support you and answer those questions that are coming up, because this is the time when conferences are about to happen all across the
I just
US, I
want to
think.
say real quickly
Mhm.
too that as a teacher, that even though it's uncomfortable, it's really important for you to start having these conversations with the parents so that they're not like shocked. And if you haven't already, it's okay. You can express, I didn't know how to communicate with you, but I'm glad we're here now. And I just know that we can work together because you know what your child needs, and I'm just here to help foster that. I only have good intentions, and just really hold compassion for yourself and for the parents because I feel like I've seen that a lot of parents, some parents are reluctant to want to admit or to do anything about it because they feel like they're responsible for that child's behavior, like they created that situation, and it's just not true. So I just want to tell parents that too, is that that I understand that, but that's just limiting you and it's making you feel worse if you, even though it's uncomfortable, if you let that out and took, responsibility, everyone takes responsibility. It's going to be so much more freeing and liberating for everyone. Anyway.
Mm. I love your passion. I love your passion. I love it. You can see it on your face. I love it. Well, absolutely. And we will keep going with this. Hopefully, we've planted some seeds for thought and add some more questions in the chat. If you have some more, like I said, we'll answer them individually or on our call next week. But I just want to thank you all so much. We are going to also drop our links to contact us if you would like to have a kind of a private meeting instead of publicly out here. So and I both have ways to contact us. So please feel free to reach out if you need to do that. And mark your calendar for next Wednesday. We'll be back for Summer Wednesdays. So, yeah. Thank you all for coming. Any last things to say? Or,
No, it's so great. I look forward to next week's conversation.
yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening. Bye bye.